everybody. Hey, ready, babe? And now, welcome to Bears with Bruce, presented by the Creative Tap and the Chicago Bear Experience, and me, DJ Shark.
All right. Welcome, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that fun opening from DJ Shark. It's good. I hope you are all happy and healthy tonight as we go into our show tonight. Thank you, DJ Shark. That was a way to pump up the crowd.
Yeah.
As we got it on for tonight. So good stuff. I hope everybody is doing well out there. I want to say that, first of all, I would like to say Happy Mother's Day.
Yes.
Mom, if you're listening, I love you. And to all the moms out there, good work. I know it's tougher than ever these days, especially for those who are homeschooling at home. Obviously, shout out to teachers, too. And everybody, really. Even if you're not homeschooling. Shout out to moms. In honor of Mother's Day, I just chugged gin and tonic, her favorite drink. So I'm ready to go. All right. Anyway, I just want to give a shout out to that, and then I'm going to kind of check in here and see how people are doing. If you're in the comments, go ahead and say hello. Drop a line and say what you're drinking, and we'll go from there, and we'll kind of get this show on the road. So say go ahead and drop it around. Hi, Steph. How you doing? Good to see ya. Step it up with Steph, everybody. If you're looking for somebody to check it out with somebody to check out to get healthy and fit, and she's always got good eating tips that I never follow. Sorry, Steph. All of that good stuff. Definitely check out Step It Up with Steph. She's awesome and also a Michigan grad. So rock and roll, go blue. Hey, Pops. Good to see ya. Hey, Aaron. Good to see ya. I hope you're doing well. And hi, Mom. All right, she's listening, everybody. Happy Mother's Day. This is great, DJ Shark.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Everybody who matters is here.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So cool. Well, we're gonna get started, but do you hear something?
A buzz. I hear a buzz.
Oh my God! What is that noise?
Buzz.
What is that noise?
Buzz.
Oh no, DJ Shark! What could it be?
Buzz.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Ah! It's a murder hornet! It's a murder hornet! Oh my goodness! Ah! Ah! Get out of here, murder hornet! So, can you believe it, folks? We have murder hornets. It's like 2020. It's just like taking that disaster thing, the button off Sim City, when you're just like kind of bored and you're like, let's see what happens here. Aliens come, volcanoes. I shouldn't jinx it, but what is it? There's a meme about bears with chainsaw hands, that sort of thing. Obviously, there's a Sharknado. We already have the DJ Shark. Just avoid any high winds, okay, DJ Shark?
Yeah.
Okay. So, good stuff. Stay safe out there. And again, I hope everybody is doing well. So, cool. Okay, we're going to get started right by drinking beer. And I have one of my, well, they're all my favorites, really. I have an awesome beer from a brewery called Pipeworks. Pipeworks started here in 2012. Guess what? Two guys who were really into homebrewing. You've never heard that story before. But they are awesome, and they actually learned how to brew in Belgium. Pretty cool. And they started their own brewery here again in 2012. I'm going to start pouring this, and then I'll talk more about it. So if you have your beers, go ahead. By the way, look at this awesome label. They have some of the coolest...
Lizard King.
Lizard King. They have some of the coolest artwork. They've always been kind of one of the cool breweries. They were voted actually the best new brewery on ratebeer.com, and I believe were voted like the best brewery on ratebeer.com for a number of years. They were voted the best new brewery for 2012. And kind of, I would say Three Floyds was kind of our first sexy brewery in the area. They started in 96, although they didn't really get sexy until a little later. And then Pat Berger tells the story, owner Patty Longs, he's like, when everybody went to Three Floyds the first time in 96, nobody was ready for the hops. And people were like, what is this? And would pour it out. Now, for a long time, you couldn't even find it. And then now... they increase capacity so you can find it a lot more often. But Pipeworks was kind of the Three Floyds of Chicago. They were kind of the sexy brewery when they started, and still obviously are a very hot brewery. They actually are going to be opening a brew pub in Logan Square. That's been in the works since, I believe, 2017. These things tend to take a lot of time, and so I don't blame these guys at all. Opening a bar is hard enough, let alone opening a brewery, let alone opening kind of another brewery or moving your brewery. All of this stuff is really a licensing nightmare. You have federal, state, and local things you have to worry about. So hopefully they will be super popular. DJ Shark has a question from the gallery.
Several people are watching, but they're not able to chat, and they're wondering, how can you chat on YouTube from your phone?
I don't think you can from your phone. I'm so sorry. I don't know. This show is also bootstrapped.
No, I'll put my cell phone in here, so if you ask questions.
Yeah, feel free to send Stacey a text, or if you have anything to sell, or if you want to sign her up to anything. By Stacey, I mean DJ Shirk. Sorry, I almost ruined your identity.
No. My poor mother is like, I want to say hello.
Oh, yeah. Happy Mother's Day. To Mrs. Hall as well, the mom of DJ Shark, the OG. And so, yeah, just tell them to get out their laptops if they can. Otherwise, shoot you a text.
Sorry, laptops. That's the answer.
Laptops. Yep. Okay. So here I've poured out my Lizard King here. First, we're going to do a few things. We're going to hold it up to the light. You're going to notice that these a lot of things about the color of beer. They can range from very dark to very light, with a variety of shades in the middle. They can be clear, they can be cloudy. This one has a nice little haze to it, as you can see. You're going to get hints on carbonation, that are going to also kind of give you a clue in on what the beer is actually going to taste like. So awesome stuff. Definitely, we drink with our eyes. Make sure you pour that in a glass if you can. Next, we're going to smell the beer. You can do the long sniff, the short sniff, the drive-by, or I just kind of like to get right in there. Rabbit sniffs it first, and then just take a nice deep breath. Again, we taste 6 things. We smell 10,000. So smelling is super important when it comes to tasting beer. Really, really big deal. So awesome stuff there. Then the best part, we're going to taste the beer. Pay attention to that initial impression, the main kind of flavor, that mouth feel, if you will, the viscosity as well. And then how does it finish? You're going to notice that beers can kind of vary and all that. So cheers to all of you. Thank you again for joining. I'm going to take a nice little sip and swish it around like a beery mouthwash. Oh, yeah. I mean, they know what they're doing. It's a great, great brewery. This one is, again, called Lizard King, and this one is known for mosaic hops. So hop varieties, you can grow different ones, and new ones are coming out all the time that will showcase particular flavors and that you'll want to, kind of grab. Mosaic hops are known for being quite complex, and you can actually use them not only for aroma, but bittering hops and kind of all the different stages that you would use hops. You can use mosaic if you'd like to. They're known for being quite complex. So when I was kind of looking at research, and I can't always pick up these, so I'm still an amateur brewer enthusiast. I still look a lot of this stuff up to see if I kind of can clue in on these flavors. But the berry, blueberry or other berries, stone fruit, citrus, bubblegum, tropical, obviously, even grassy and some of those other flavors, but known for being quite complex. Mosaic hops is one of those hops that turned super sexy super fast, so all these breweries wanted to get it. They actually had a hard time getting it for a number of years, and then eventually capacity was increased. At one point, it was increasing like 60% year over year, so they could kind of come up with the demand for this in the mid 2010s, whatever that would be known for. So awesome, awesome beer. Now this is an American pale ale. Pale ale, what does that mean? Well, color. There we go. We've got it. We've got the pale. Now and obviously ale, we've talked about the difference between lagers and ales. So these are fermented at a little higher temperatures, and the yeast is going to snack at the top of the brewing tank, and it's going to produce extra stuff, some fruity esters and other things when it kind of is snacking on that beer. So ale. We have pale. Now, interesting story. Pale ale starts in the UK. We've kind of talked about this a little bit, I believe, in the past, but it starts basically when we talked about porters and stouts, because it plays into that story as well. But basically, the way the story is, they started using Coke in the industrial process. Not the stuff you sniff. Don't worry, Mom. I'm not touching that stuff, okay? I'm not going there. It's not that stuff. Instead, it's a byproduct of coal, and it burns very hot without a lot of fume. What do you call it? Coal dust or whatever you call it. I can't think of the word, but you know what I mean. And so they would use this to kiln the barley, and they would produce at those higher temperatures a much lighter barley. So then they started making beer with this barley, known as pale ale. And it was huge. It really started in the UK, and that's really where the style started. The first use of the term pale ale is from 1703. So there you go, a little history for you there. Now, American pale ale, what does that mean? Well, we got our dirty freedom fingers on this, and we decided to add in American hops. American hops, known as being bigger and bolder in flavor than a lot of European-style hops, the kind of traditional hops you use in beer. So again, what are we getting? More citrus, more floral, bigger flavors. There's more acid content in the hop varieties that produce that in the brewing process. And then when you make beer with it, you get that kind of bigger, bolder flavors. This all, in my opinion, traces back to the fact that American beer was pretty bland for a long time. A lot of lagers, a lot of light lagers. So when craft brewers are coming in and opening up, they want a lot of flavor or more flavor. This is one of the ways to do it. It's really with these kind of wonderful wonderful American hops that are used. So pretty cool, neat style. Now you might be like, what's the difference between an IPA and an APA? You know, in general, IPA, it's not like APA's the American hop thing. I kind of think that a lot of those, there's definitely some kind of middle ground there where like Alpha King is a great example from Three Floyds. It's a 6.5% APA that, I mean, drinks almost like an IPA. But in general, I think APAs tend to be a little lighter. A little on the lighter side. Again, there might be some overlap, but this one is 6%, for example. So you don't see a ton of American IPAs that are 6%. You might, but usually they're going to be closer to 7 and kind of go up from there, 6.5, 7. It's not necessarily true, but that's kind of showing you, and then you kind of, APAs can be lower as well. For example, Daisy Cutter out of Half Acre here is a 5.2% beer. And you contrast that kind of to some of the higher ABVs of IPAs. Again, not always true and not maybe the best way to distinguish between the two, but that's kind of how I do. I will say that this beer is delicious and definitely has a lighter mouthfeel than what I would expect to find in an APA. So it really does have a little more lightness to it. APAs are great, I think better, kind of your day drinking or hot weather beers if you want more hops than you would want in a kind of a heavier IPA. Sometimes those are better for kind of just staying indoors or when it's a little cooler out, that sort of thing. Not always, and obviously you do what you want. And of course, there's no sessionable IPAs that are lower ABVs that confuse the whole damn thing. So there you go. What are you going to do? All right, I'm going to kind of check the comments, see what everybody's drinking on. All right.
Oh, yeah. They should put in the comments what they're drinking.
Yeah, totally.
They haven't done that yet.
Come on, folks. It's Saturday night.
This is the expectation. Tell us what you're drinking with.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Gin and tonic. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Okay, gin and tonic for my mom and 4 across for Dennis. You guys are having quite the Saturday night. I love it. All right.
I'm having a right beside her.
She's getting Stace has a right beside her, a great local cider company here in Chicago. And by Stacy, I mean DJ Shark. God damn it, they're going to figure out who it is at some point. And Steph has got a red wine.
Ooh.
Hey, I love red wines. Sometimes it's a great change of pace. Sometimes you need to have some wine. And, hopefully it's out of the box like I drink it. And your dad's drinking a Patagonia beer. Cool. Okay. All right. Hey, Michelle, good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. All right, we're on the big screen. Okay, I should have put some makeup on or, covered up these scars, as they said. So there you go. Okay. Oh, you can chat from your phone, my dad says, by the way. So I don't know how he figured it out, but there you go. And Stacy, Steph says you're the best.
Thank you. Yeah. And Aaron is drinking a Spiteful Goddamn Pigeon Porter.
Nice. No, oh, that's a great beer. I saw that today. I was considering that for tonight. That's awesome. Solid logo. Oh yeah. Did I pull the logo up? Oh man, I got to do this. Shout out to ePod. ePod's on the thing right now, and I got to give him a shout out because, and a shout out to Michelle too. That Chicago Beer Experience logo right there. That's ePod's logo right there. I don't know. I don't think I ever paid him a dime for that. So I don't know if I did or not. I'm sorry, ePod. The tour tickets are going to be, I'll give you 10% off anytime you want. And we'll go from there. But no, ePod's the man. He's over in Kalamazoo. So thank you for that. Oh, and I do want to shout out Glenn for recommending this beer originally. He's a beer tour guide, and he's the one who got me on the Lizard King years ago, and it's just a delicious beer. And obviously, Michelle, Creative Tap, check out all your creative needs. All right. Cool. And then, any other?
Yeah. Evan and Jess are drinking Calvin Cream Ridge from their local brewery in Presidential Brewing in Portage, Michigan.
Cool. Presidential Brewing. I'll have to check that out. I don't think I've been there. Mad Dog. A Paloma. Oh, that's a delicious drink. it's a good cocktail.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Mad Dog 2020 says my dad. Mad Dog got me in trouble years ago. It was not good.
Yeah.
Not good at all.
Last wife.
my first wife. So, all right. Cool stuff. I did pay you on the prototype tour. So, cool. Yeah, support your local breweries. By the way, I do want to give the local breweries a shout out. They started something here in Chicago, in Illinois. The Illinois Craft Brewers Guild is doing like a drink at home passport, and you can actually go there, and they will give you like a drink at home slip. So you can, and then you get you can enter for prizes and do all this cool stuff. Even if you're not in Illinois, check out your brewers guilds and check out a lot of breweries are doing curbside pickup or delivery. Obviously, you can order through beer stores and that sort of thing. I actually am a little embarrassed because it's overpriced, but I did do a drizzly order for this earlier on from a beer store. But I have gone direct to breweries too during this, particularly Off Color Brewing here in Chicago, which is one of my favorites. They're great, and I'm going to go and have to stock up for next week on something. So definitely check out your local breweries, and we will go from there. You know what time it is?
What time?
Malort break!
Hey,
you want to play the music? You want to play?
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a new song.
Okay, it's time.
Song tonight.
It's time to go. Oops. It's time to go to a bar. All right. Let's do it. Beach better have my money.
Okay.
Hi, everybody.
All right. Happy Saturday.
Happy
Malort
Mother's
time.
Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day, Alice. Happy Mother's Day, Mama.
Woo! Malort break! All right. Okay. There we go. Good
Brilliant.
stuff. All right, babe. Do you mind if I move this back a little bit? The light?
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you so much. The light was a little bright. Lights get a little bright for me, whether I'm playing a sport, which doesn't happen often, or on the show. Oh, that's much better. Thank you. Thank you, DJ Shark. And so I need to get some. Oh, there we go. we're falling apart over here in studio. The Malort break might have taken it out of us.
Nope, it was nothing to do with the Malort break. Everything to do with it being week 9 of shelter in place.
That's good enough, babe. That's no problem.
Yeah.
That's good enough.
I think that's kind of a great motto for week 9 of shelter in place. Good enough.
Yeah.
Good enough.
That's good. Yeah. Okay. There we go. I'm going to hold on a second. There we go. See what's going on. Okay. This is actually the Arrogant Frog Bar, if you can believe it. So there we go. Okay. Cool. Well, I want to give you a little more history as we talk today before we go and let you on your way for another week of quarantine. The thing I wanted to talk about tonight, we're going to take another sip. Oh, by the way, here we go. Get your drink. Another sip to everybody. All right. Also, a shout out to the first responders, all those medical workers, all the people who have been dealing with this disease. We just found a story, somebody we know had this thing, and they were in like a 3-week struggle. Hopefully you stay safe and healthy. I would listen to the medical experts over the politicians. It's my only little preach for tonight as we go from there. And and then obviously everybody else who's handling this and economically impacted and etc. There you go. Delicious. Okay, so I wanted to take tonight and talk a little bit about prohibition. Not prohibition itself. We've kind of mentioned Capone. We've talked about a lot of this. But sometimes you might be thinking to yourself, well, what the hell? How did this happen? What's going on here? Why did prohibition start? I think it's really, really interesting, and it shows you that these things don't just happen overnight. They happen over a long period of time. When it comes to prohibition, some seeds were planted in those lager beer riots and kind of anti-alcohol, anti-immigrant sentiment. They were connected. Why? Because those Germans, Irish, and other populations, mainly from Europe, were coming over to the U.S. and bringing their, a lot of times, exuberant drinking cultures with them that tended to be a little more public than a lot of kind of the New England waspy, fresh off the Mayflower type of folks that had been here. So, and obviously, we won't touch Native American history. That is a different podcast, and shout out to them. But holy smokes, that's going to go down a different rabbit hole. Babe, I think the Malort hit me. So anyway, so
my mom says no judgment.
Awesome. So anyway, the anti-immigrant sentiment. We talked about lager beer riots. What happened here in Chicago? Just to give you a really brief update on that, they started the Know Nothing Party, which was an anti-immigrant party. Was elected into power in the mid-1800s, 1850s, and they started enforcing these blue laws, including raising taxes and enforcing no drinking on Sundays. So the Germans actually, what was a peaceful protest, actually turned into riots, the 1855 lager beer riots. And then you had these movements kind of all over the country saying, hey, you know what? These immigrants need to kind of calm down. They need to get themselves under control, and we got to make sure that they don't drink too much so they can become American, that type of thing. Then you also have the rise of the Women's Christian Temperance Union and other kind of women's rights organizations. Now, keep in mind, a lot of bars did not allow women to enter or drink there. They might have had a side room for women, or they might have had an area, but a lot of times there was just no drinking allowed for women. So men would go to the bar, and then unfortunately, as the stories would say, they would go home drunk. There was a lot of domestic abuse and other things as a result of this that was a really bad. So it's no surprise, and I do not blame women for this. If I was a woman and I was told not only can I not go somewhere, but my partner is going to come home and be like a nightmare to deal with, I'd be a little ticked off too. So they actually are reading a really interesting book now about saloon life in Chicago and Boston in the 1880s to 1920s. And one of the things that it actually said was they actually prohibited females from bartending. That was another thing. A lot of females still bartended. They were owners' wives and that sort of thing. But from a professional aspect, just another profession that women were excluded from at the time. So no surprise there. And then it was really the Anti-Saloon League. Obviously, there was a religious and moral component to this as well. And the Anti-Saloon League was what really kind of brought everything together and was considered one of the most, if not the most powerful grassroots organization at the time in the late 1800s, all the way up to when Prohibition was enacted. To me, it really reminds me of the NRA, and I don't mean that in any type of moral judgment. I'm personally not a fan of the NRA, but I'm not saying that in that respect. I'm just saying how powerful that organization is relative to certain things, whether or not certain things get done or not. It is tremendously powerful, and that was really the Anti-Saloon League, which, by the way, one side effect of that is we used to call all bars but saloons before Prohibition. I used to think saloons had swinging doors. You'd walk in with your 6-shooter and come in and say, "Give me a shot of whiskey," and that was what kind of the Wild West Tavern. But it was really a popular thing for almost all bars. It was this league that gave bars such a bad name that really kind of controlled for that. So they're coming in, and the Anti-Saloon League was really run by a man named Wayne Wheeler. Tremendously powerful. He was considered one of the most powerful men in the country during that time. And his backing could win or lose congressional elections. So we're talking House of Reps, and would be so it was a huge deal to get his backing, or if they back somebody else that was running against you, it could be a huge problem. So they're doing it. They're kind of backing candidates. They're rising into power, and they're doing all of these things by 1909. And what they would do, they had this tremendous political strategy, which was called the local option. The local option, there's a great beer bar here. Also, they contract brew beer that's really good, called the local option down in Fullerton and Lincoln Park. And that's really saying, putting ballot questions on whether or not things would be allowed or not. It was the local option to allow booze or prohibit it. And they're like, hey, we're not trying to cause any trouble. We're just giving people the options to choose for themselves. But they knew, guess what? The more and more local places that decided to ban booze, they could have nationwide prohibition. That was always the dream for them. And that was always what they were really pushing for. Be suspicious for any organization that says, hey, we're just letting the locals decide, because they know if enough locals come their way, they'll have a good chance for moving it on a bigger scale. So they're doing this. By 1909, half of the country was under some sort of blue law. Blue law meaning, kind of prohibiting booze in some way, including half of the city of Chicago. Now, at the Chicago, I mentioned there was a book written in 1893 called When Christ Comes to Chicago by W.T. Sneed, a British reformist, and he was, the whole book was, he would be very disappointed, all right? I mean, Chicago was a wild place. It was the Las Vegas of the world at that time. It was the Paris of North America. It was debauchery, gambling, brothels, you name it, opium dens, for crying out loud. If you want it, you could get it. So they, if Chicago was going to go half blue, then they really had a shot. And for here, the brewers, however, and producers of booze, and I have to ask DJ Shark, could you get my charger? I'm sorry, we're gonna die here. We're gonna die. We're another great night of production from Beers Bruce. So anyway, they come in, and the brewers and the liquor producers weren't concerned about this until it was too late. Why? 70%. I'm gonna nerd out here, so get your notes, get your common law books. It's exam time. We're going to study. We're going to go real deep, get real nerdy. But basically, by 1909, that same year, 70% of revenues, federal revenues, were based on excise taxes and tariffs, primarily on the sale of booze. So it's just common sense. If they're saying, hey, if we're paying for 70% of the federal government, or somewhere even close to that, they're not going to prohibit us. These Congress people are just playing to their base so they can get elected, get that anti-Saloon League endorsement. And then after that, no big deal. They're going to, they're going to never vote for it to actually go into effect. However, what they didn't expect was the passage of everybody's favorite amendment, the 16th Amendment to the United States Constitution. I told you we were going to nerd out tonight, okay? I warned you. That Constitution allowed for a federal personal income tax, folks. This paved the way. All of a sudden, that revenue from booze was much less important, and you got it. That kind of paved the way. World War I went into effect, and some things happened there. This amendment became very, very important to raise money for the United States. And then you had rationing, which affected kind of alcohol, the alcohol industry. They're saying, no, don't, you can't brew so much. You can't make so much alcohol. We need that for food and other things at the time. So then they're doing that, and then these things. Thank you. Sorry. Thanks, yeah. DJ Shark. So they're doing all that stuff. Oh, we're back.
Yes.
So all of this stuff is happening, and everybody's favorite amendment, the 18th Amendment to the United States Constitution, went into effect in 1919, ratified by all of the states, necessary for that amendment to go into effect. Now, when it went into effect, the brewers had 1 year before it actually was 1920 when it went into effect. They kind of tried to switch tact and blame whiskey. You got to blame somebody, right? They were like, hey, it's whiskey's fault. Man, you can't get that drunk when you have too much beer. It's impossible. It's whiskey's the devil. Let us brew beer. Even a lower ABV beer. We'll kind of keep it cool. Don't worry. Obviously, IPAs weren't around at that time, but they would be like, no IPAs, no double, only APAs. We're good. It didn't work. Didn't fool anybody. They did have a funny scientist up there who testified in front of Congress. It's in the congressional record. He chugged 5 beers. I don't think he chugged them right in front of Congress, but he drank 5 beers before, and he said, hey, I just had 5 beers. I feel fine. I'm not affected by this. I can do whatever I want. I'm perfectly sober. Totally tober. No problem. Again, it did not work. And when the Volstead Act, as it went into effect, was codified into law, 0.5%. 0.5%. You will die of water poisoning. DJ Shark might like it, but a lot of us wouldn't, because you will die of water poisoning before you feel any effects of that.
Saltwater poisoning.
Saltwater poisoning. Okay, DJ Shark.
Yeah.
I'll handle the jokes tonight.
Thank you.
I'm just kidding. I'm going to get eaten after the show. So the Volstead Act, 0.5%. That's the same alcohol content that German chocolate cake has. It's the same alcohol content that in O'Doul's will have. O'Doul's is called non-alcoholic beer. Non-alcoholic beer has about 0.5%. You will die of water poisoning. You will. You will not feel any effects of that. So, went into effect. Obviously, we only had 13 years of prohibition. Yikes. Although, sneaky drinking could be fun, I guess. Sneaky. We're going to have to do that now with the coronavirus. I won't because of my health, but sneaky drinking, DJ Shark might have been out at a party tonight. She was socially distant. We're all good. DJ Shark's giving me the shark eye.
Giving me the gills.
Giving me the gills. So, good stuff. I hope you enjoyed that. I'll talk a little bit more about Prohibition, sprinkle some of this up in. I just think it's really interesting. To give you a quick recap, a bunch of reasons why, and it took 70, 80 years really for this to really pick up steam, to actually become a constitutional amendment, which when you think about that is mind-blowing. There are 27 of them. It's the only one to ever be repealed. I mean, these things are pretty tough to get enacted and pretty tough to be repealed, since it's the only one that's ever been repealed. Crazy stuff. But basically the reasons: anti-immigrant sentiment really kind of pushed some anti-alcohol sentiment too. You had kind of women's rights and because alcohol was not a female-friendly thing at the time, either not allowed in saloons or suffering the societal consequences of drinking, if you will. Then you had also kind of a moralistic element to it that really pushed some grassroots organizations that really were able to kind of codify it into law. So those are the big reasons behind it. I hope you enjoyed that little history lesson. Thankfully, Prohibition does not exist now, and it is an essential service, which I agree with, as is pot, which is hilarious because it was, illegal until 6 months ago here in Illinois? Essential! Smoke them if you got them. By the way, smoking apparently cures corona. Don't quote me on that. Okay, here we go. I'm going to look at some comments, see what's going on here. Let's see, can we get a little background music?
Absolutely, except there was no comments.
No comments. I think we got more comments with the Facebook, didn't we?
Yeah.
All right. Well, drop some comments. Let me know what's going on. Okay. I don't think they're... full size on the video size. The bar illusion will be really good. Okay, I'll try this. There's no comments. They liked my history that much, babe.
Exactly. You left them speechless.
Right. Whoa! Oh, I see what you mean, Pod. Like I'm sitting... Is that a better I don't know.
We're figuring it out. I did get a couple messages from friends that said that since the sun was out today in the Midwest, they were drinking all day and they are no longer going to tune in tonight.
No problem. I don't blame people.
I know. That's the nice part about YouTube. You can always watch later.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. Well, that is the show for tonight. I want to thank you so much for joining. And thank you to DJ Shark.
Yeah.
Thank you to my mom for tuning in, and happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, thank you to everybody for joining in. And I really appreciate it. And regardless, I hope that you guys have a happy and healthy week 8 of quarantine. Avoid those murder hornets. And we'll see you back next week. Okay, everybody? Okay.
Are you ready to dance it out?
Let's dance it out.
All right. Wait, do they want to leave any questions or anything in the comments? No, we're
Think
good
we're good?
here. Leave questions for next week or suggestions for new topics.
Okay, go down. Ready? You gotta put your head down.
I'm down.
Okay, ready? Here I come. Oh, my back.
You go down now. And you go down. And wait, can we put up my fish tank?
What?
Can you put up my fish tank?
The fish tank? Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Maybe you could leave. Just me. Good night, everybody. Happy Mother's Day. We love you.
Good night, everybody.